Best-selling author and American psychologist Mary Pfeiffer said this: "We live in a world filled with language. Language imparts identity, meaning, and perspective to our human community. Writers are either polluters or part of the cleanup team. Just as the language of power and greed has the potential to destroy us, the language of reason and empathy has the power to save us. Writers can inspire a kinder, fairer, more beautiful world, or invite selfishness, stereotyping, and violence. Writers can unite people or divide them." In this book show podcast, host, confidence coach Susan Axelrod asks women authors a simple question: which kind of writer are you? She invites each guest to step into the confidence zone to proclaim how her book can inspire. If you are seeking inspiration to create your legacy, take out your pen and pad. Your book, My Time, starts now. Hello, friends. Susan Axelrod here, host of your book, My Time. You know I love my book show podcast. Well, recently, a few people asked me, what about your book? I'm an author. Who's going to talk to you about your book? And I decided that I would, in fact, invite someone to guest host this episode of your book, My Time, to interview me as the author. So I am delighted to bring in and introduce you to my good friend, Nadine Searle. Hello, Nadine.
Hello, Susan. Hello, everybody.
Good to see you. Thank you for being here today. Nadine is one of my fellow leading practitioners in the KS Media Group app. She is a podcast host herself. She has been a guest on many people's podcasts, and she is the Calmer Self Coach. So Nadine, I am now the guest in your hands. Thank you for hosting this podcast today.
Well, thank you, Susan. I am so honored to be interviewing you about your book, which is so wonderful. And I've just got to say, this series that you're doing here, your book, My Time, it is so valuable, isn't it? Because not only do you give people a chance to talk about their books, but you're asking them what their story is, how their book came about. And also what I think is of real value is what the authors would like people to get from the books. So I love your questions. It's really, and the podcast, I've been listening to it and it is wonderful. So I am humbled to be here. Very, very pleased to be chatting to you. So we'll get started on your book, shall we?
We shall.
So, your book is called Your Job is to Be, which is just perfect, isn't it? It's lovely. And it's an anthology to inspire soul connection. Now, I love that. Deep soul connection is powerful. And it's a collection, isn't it, of articles. So there's lots of, I don't know if you want to call them articles or chapters, but it really was. What I love about it as well is that at the end of every article chapter, you have put a question, something for us to contemplate. Now, when I read a book, I don't rush through it. I quite often do sit and go, oh, what's that? And I have a little think and I have a little question. So you've done that for me already, which is wonderful. And there's a couple of little chapters I'd just like to say that really stood out to me. One of them, confidence to calm. And as you say, I'm the Calmer Self Coach. So obviously you're the confidence coach. That one just popped out at me straight away. Also, I loved the one that's, it's okay to be hot. Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Giving us all permission to be hot. And do something terrifying. That's a good one, isn't it? So those are the ones that really popped out to me. So first of all, what is your story behind your story and why you've written this book for everybody?
Yeah, thank you so much. I had forgotten about my article called Confidence to Calm, and here you and I have an ongoing series about that very topic. That's very synergistic. The story behind this book is one of my own personal evolution and personal development. Over many years, I had wanted to speak, to be a platform speaker. I've been a professional speaker for many, many, many years. I wanted to elevate up. And, but I didn't really have voice to do that. I didn't have permission to do that. Permission, comes from the outside and from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started just writing in social media, different posts, and I was just giving voice through my social media. Now I call it organic marketing as part of the business system that I teach. And when I was reading through my own book to prepare for this discussion with you, I had forgotten to tell you the truth that the book begins with the story of how I was found by publisher
Yes.
extraordinaire Sybil English of Sabella Publications. And that really is a big part of the story behind this story, that I was speaking out through writing, and I was found by someone whom I learned to respect and admire, and who gave me a validation that I just had not been able to find myself. And this is now what I do as a book Sherpa coach for others, Nadine. I want to be really clear on this.
Yeah.
There's so many people who write and they really don't feel confident about what it is that they're writing. And I provide that service as a book Sherpa coach. But in this, what happened with me was, when Sybil English reached out to me and said, I'd like you to write for my magazine, I had to first be suspicious and say, is she trying to sell me something or whatever? And then when I vetted her as the true publisher she is at Sabella Publications, I said yes. And that was 5 years ago, Nadine.
Wow.
I have virtually never missed a monthly column in that magazine.
Wow. Brilliant.
And so you referred to whether I call them articles or chapters. This book is actually an anthology of the articles that I wrote in that magazine. And that's another part of the story behind my story. The way I got my first published book was I did something that was smart. I pulled together all the articles that I had written and I called them chapters, and I turned it into what you noticed, which I refer to as a book journal.
Yeah.
So the chapters are brief. They're 500 words, which is very brief. I call it a small book. You can see how small it is. And they are provocative. They provoke you to think, because I share my own personal experience, my own journey. And then, as I said, I give you space to write, because why? Writing changed my life. And so that's all part of the story behind my story of this book. And I'm so happy to be sharing it with you today, because I am living proof that your writing can turn into your legacy library.
Yeah.
So Nadine, as a result of writing
this
book, there's more.
Yes,
and
there is.
I have another book that I wrote on meditations. And the third book in my trilogy is called Dear Younger Self. Also an anthology of articles, and also a small book.
Yes, I quite like that though, because you can keep revisiting, can't you? I really like that. But I think, and I don't think it's a secret, there's another one on the way, isn't there?
There is another one on the way. It's going to be called Dear Future Self. And it is also another anthology of more articles that I have written, because people have told me so much how deeply my writing resonates. And so that's another reason I started this book show podcast, is exactly what you said in your introduction, which is it's an opportunity to give authors a chance to share their message and the story of their book. So I'm grateful for that here.
It's wonderful, isn't it? And that's just, it's you in a nutshell, isn't it? You are giving that confidence to people, which is what you do all the time. And it's lovely that you start, because it is right at the start of the book, isn't it? Your little story. You were asked and you had to change those negative thoughts into positive to step into this world, and you've done it. And obviously you just want to share it with everyone else and give everyone else that same beautiful confidence, that feeling that you got. And that is what's so wonderful about you, isn't it? That this is what you
Yeah.
do.
Thank you so much. Thank you for reminding me of really one of the, I'm going to really say, seminal pieces of my personal transformation, Nadine, and that is mindset reframe. You
Yes.
just mentioned it.
Mm.
And I called it out. I had those suspicious thoughts. Oh, is she trying to sell me
Yeah.
something? Is she real
Yeah, we
or
do,
not?
don't we? Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, exactly. And then I used one of my own tools, which is what I call what if positive. And then I intentionally moved my thoughts from what if negative, well, what if she's trying to sell me something? What if she's not real? What if this is bogus? To what if positive? What if she is a real publisher? And what if
Mm.
this is a real
Mm.
opportunity? So you're
Yeah.
exactly right. The mindset reframe, that understanding that you can be in control of your thoughts if you
Yeah.
choose, is
Mm.
absolutely embedded in my first book.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's wonderful, isn't it? Because if we don't do that, we miss such wonderful opportunities. And you're living proof of that, aren't you? So
Yes.
that is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. So I'm going to ask you my favorite question now. I love this. I so love this. Tell me and everyone else why your book is worth my time to read. Beautiful
I
question.
I do love this question. It's so funny to be on the other end of that question now. My book is worth your time to read if you are looking to be more in control in your own life. If you are feeling lonely, sad, anxious, worried, depressed, irritable, angry, really out of control, then in this book, you will find words that soothe, ideas that serve, and strategies that work. So, embedded in my book, Your Job is to Be, are actual tools that I created, just like I just said, what if negative
Mm.
to what if positive. What if positive is one of my tools. There are actual strategies that will support you. What I love about my books is they're small, they're manageable. It's real bite-sized stuff that you can really chew on and will nurture you as if you're actually taking in the best, healthiest ingredients. And so I really honestly believe, and I will tell you, Nadine, it's funny to say, but I will tell you, I do use my own books, even though I wrote the words.
Mhm.
Anybody who is an author knows what I'm about to say. When you are writing from an intuitive space, the words come out of you as if they're divined through you. They are,
Yeah.
in fact, sort of divined through you. If you
Mm.
open yourself up to intuitive writing, as I do every month for the magazines that I write for Sabella Publications, then you don't necessarily actively remember every word that you wrote. Now I
Mm.
have 3 books. I have a 4th book in production. I had another book that I had already written. It's on the shelf a little bit. I write every day in my business. So honestly, I have taken my books and opened them up and read articles and written, on the note pages. All 3 of my books do have note pages for thinking and for
Mm.
writing for the reasons
Brilliant.
that we discussed. And so honestly, my books are even worth my time as well.
I so love that, because it's true, isn't it? It's that kind of, like I said, you can dip back into them. They are there. They're almost like a reference, like a reminder. And I love a book like that, because I don't read and then forget a book. I'm always going back to books, and this is exactly how you've set this up, isn't it? So that we can do that, and you're inviting everyone to do that, aren't you? So it's what I call more than a book, because it is more than a read, isn't it? It's a thought process, like you say. There's lots of tools in there, but it also gives us a chance to really think for ourselves, and like you say, it's that soul connection, isn't it? Really get connected. So I do like that. So I'm glad that you use your books too. That's really lovely to
so
hear.
it's getting connected to that feeling space. That's what soul connection is. Most of us live in a very disconnected place from our feelings. And again, that's a conversation. Maybe you and I will have that on in our other thing that we do.
Yeah.
But most of us are disconnected from our feelings. And my books are all designed with tools and strategies and beautiful words to help you connect to your feeling space. And so one of the chapters that you mentioned, I want to talk about just for a minute. And it's called Middle-Aged Hot Mama.
Yeah, love it.
The story of Middle-Aged Hot Mama is that as I came into the middle age, I began to look around me and look for my role models. And my role models are women who are comfortable in their own skin. They are financially secure. They are supremely confident, and they live in this purposeful space. And for me, those characteristics sort of define someone who is hot. And so the use of the word hot for me equals confidence. And that is what is intended and invoked in that chapter. What will it take for you to be confident in your midlife, or as I call it, the second half of life? Once you cross over one age, you've got the rest of your life to live.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah.
Middle-Aged Hot Mama was a brand and a thesis that I created a few years ago, and I did a lot of work around it. And it served me very well in one of my areas that I call Discovering You Again for women in the second half of life. And my work was about helping women discover their own hot factor. But really, for me, that means confidence factor.
Yeah.
And so that's what that is.
I think it's one of those little titles, isn't it, that makes whatever people think it is, they're going to read it, aren't they?
Yes.
To be honest with me, because I don't read from start to finish, that probably would have been the first bit I read, because it really stuck out to me. So, but that's good, isn't it? Because you've really picked words there that people go, oh, I've got to see what that is. So brilliant. And like you say, short enough to read, and get the message. And you share in there a lot of your personal stuff, don't you? What you've been through and how you've, like you said, reframed things and got to where you want to be. So it's really valuable, isn't it, to look at that?
It really, truly is. And many people have talked about this to me, because most middle-aged women don't see themselves as hot. Sexy. It's just, the second half of life, you're just happy to be breathing, And so I want to bring hot forward, and I want to really help women understand that when you feel confident, you are hot to other people. That is just absolutely a given. It doesn't matter what you look like, the physical features or factors or whatever. When you present as confident, other people, gravitate to you.
Yeah, you're so right, because it is about that, isn't it? The confidence. You can just be anything, and it does take away from what you think you look like, but it's what's inside. If you've got that inner confidence, you're exactly right. You are whatever you want to be, aren't you? If you've got that confidence. So I really, really love that. It's brilliant.
Definitely. You mentioned the chapter "Do Something Terrifying."
Yes.
This is another thing that I wanted to invoke for people. I talk about terrifying exhilaration. In the second half of life, exhilaration is not really a common part of how we live our lives. We're coming into a quieter phase where we're ready for downtime. But if you don't have any sense of excitement and enthusiasm and exhilaration in your life,
purposefulness, passion, then you're really just on this sort of low, steady decline. Now you get to define what terrifying is to you. For me, terrifying was entering a half marathon when I was 51. And I had never run. I was not a runner at all, but I asked my daughter, Rebecca, to help me. She's a personal trainer. And that was terrifying for me at that time. Every time I do something terrifying, I recently have some things going on in my personal life that required, really terrifying stuff, to tell you the truth, that I have to step out and step forth. And it's nerve-wracking. It may be even terrifying. But when you push through scary, on the other side is exhilaration. Now, do you know what I mean by this, Nadine?
Oh, I totally do. And it's that people talk about it a lot, stepping out of your comfort zone, don't they? They say if we do push ourselves, it's so valuable, isn't it? And we learn a lot, and we can, then we just feel so, I don't know about you, but I feel really pleased with myself when I have done something I thought I couldn't, or done something that scared me. Then I just go, yeah, wow. And again, that builds my confidence. That's what we do. And it's not quite the same thing, but it's similar. Someone said to me years ago, curiosity keeps you young. I love that. So again, it goes hand in hand, I think, with pushing yourself that little bit. If we think we can't, or we're scared of something, that's always a little thing to me going, I'm going to be curious. I'm going to see if I can do this. And actually we can, and I don't pick big, scary things. I've got to be honest with you. My scary things are quite small sometimes. It's different for every person, isn't it? But I really love that fact of curiosity keeps us young. And I think, like you say, doing something terrified as well, like you say, the exhilaration, the excitement, we don't want to just plateau down, do we? We want to keep going and keep pushing ourselves. It's important, isn't it? And valuable.
It is. And we want to be careful to say here, terrifying and exhilarating, these are subjective terms.
Yes.
So for our listeners today, I don't want them to think of what someone else says is terrifying, right? We don't want to impose anything else. It's only you pushing yourself a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that, like you said, in small bits, or in some cases, there have been some things that I've done that are big. Going from 0 to a half marathon is a big thing.
See, that wouldn't be my choice. That would not be what I'd be going for. But it's like you say, everyone's different. And again, you invite people to connect with their soul, think what works for them, what is going to be, small, terrifying, maybe a little bit of scary stuff is good, isn't it? Little steps, as we always say.
Exactly. One of the things that I want to do this year, Nadine, is create a group for writers, a writers accountability group.
Yeah.
And that is something I want to do because I am a writer myself. I write every day. I write for these very various things. And I know that writing first changed my life.
Yeah.
Writing changed my life. When I started journaling when I was in my late 20s, that was a game changer, and it ended up changing my life. Later, I began to publish when I was 30, I published my first article in a professional publication, and I started publishing early. Of course, these books are only in the last several years, but writing changed my life first. Journaling, absolutely. I teach journaling. I'm an advocate of journaling. And then writing changed my business. Writing changed my business because now I have my books. Now I teach business, confidence coaching to women who have businesses for themselves. I urge and implore them to write. They don't have time to write. So this is one of the things that's on my mind right now. For anyone listening to this, I want to invite you to get in touch with me personally, because as a result of my own published books and my own ongoing writing, I know that having a writer's accountability group is absolutely one way to support you both in life and in business. Yeah. So that's really one of the biggest outcomes for me that I really have gotten myself from publishing my own books.
Yeah. Yeah, and I would echo that really. I mean, that could be somebody's little scary thing, couldn't it? That they want to write, and to have a group and have the support of you personally, and other people. I'm sure with the group, there's group value, isn't there? And the accountability, like you say, that's going to help people take that maybe scary step, isn't it? Because most people have got, well, everyone's got a book in them, haven't they? But to actually, how many people say, oh, I'd like to write a book? You're giving people the opportunity here to actually do it with you, with your support, with your knowledge, with your expertise, with your encouragement, with your confidence that oozes out of you. So I think that's a wonderful invitation. So I would encourage everybody to do exactly that, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. It is
Yeah.
true. Does everyone have a book in them? Whether or not they have what they feel like is a book in them, everybody does have something to say.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
right. Everyone has something to say, something to share from their own, what I call wisdom gleaned and gained. And it starts by writing it out. Now, I do know that everybody has a book in them, but everybody doesn't have the ability to push through the terrifying to get to the finished
Yes. Yeah.
publication. I can help them with that. I do coaching in that area as
Yeah.
well. But I really want to give people voice and encourage. I have one of my clients who writes for his business, but the poet voice in him was suppressed. And in our work together, the poet voice started to come out prolifically. It had shown itself, but it just started to come out prolifically.
Yeah.
And
Brilliant.
it's beautiful. It's amazing, so powerful. And that is really why I'm glad to have this opportunity to speak with you about my book. I call my books a soul connection trilogy. All of my books are about working to help you connect up to the feeling space inside of you so you can feel again.
I think it's like you said earlier, isn't it? When you are connected, the writing just comes through you. And like you explained about this man with the poetry, it came out probably because he was connected, and then it flows, doesn't it? And that's the beauty of it. It's not as hard as people think, is it? Once you get that connection, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Once you get that connection, and like I said, you did really say it the right way. I do provide people with validation. I am a reader. I happen to be an editor, although I don't sell that service. It's part of my book Sherpa coaching service. But I do provide that validation to people that people do really need, the way Sybil English provided it to me.
David,
And
that's the thing. It started with that, didn't it? And I think it's really interesting that you started writing articles, because like you say, a whole book, quite big, very scary, but to actually, everyone has an article in them. It reminds me when you were talking then about when I was at school and we did essays. And I loved writing essays, and because I was sharing something I wanted to share. So that's the way to look at it, isn't it? We can all write something, and
yes, Nadine, it
that we
is.
can be heard. Yeah, we're going to be heard, aren't we? So yeah, we've all got something we can write, and we all have value, don't we? So I really love that. So I'd like to ask the next question for you, and I think you might have answered it actually, but what do you want a reader to do after they've read your book? What do you really want them to pick up from it? What do they want? What do you think it will inspire them to do? What do you want them to do?
I want them to write in the book. That's why it's there, or put pages in or whatever. What I want a reader to do with this book is I want them to write in the book, because my writing activates their thinking and feeling.
Yeah.
So I want them to write, and I want to inspire people to write themselves. And then I want to hear personally from people who read my books. And this is one of the things that I've learned. Most authors do want to hear from their readers. So I want to invite readers of my book to contact me personally through my website, whatwillyourlegacybe.com. I'm on Facebook every day. My Facebook page is the same name, What Will Your Legacy Be? or they can email me. All my contact information is in all of my books. And I really do want to hear from readers. I want to see what you've written. I want to work with you and to support you to do your own essay writing or to put your own anthology book together. It's time for us now to really speak out about what we've learned and what we have to share. And that is what I want readers to do.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I imagine all the places that you've just said we can find you, that's where we can get the book from as well, is it? Is that how we can get the book?
You can get the book on Amazon under my author name, Susan Axelrod.
Yes.
The book is Your Job Is to Be. You can find it on my website. Contact me many different ways.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have so loved talking to you about your book. It's been such a wonderful experience, and might be a bit cheeky, but I'd love to talk to you about your other books as well, because it's just a wonderful thing to share, isn't it? So
okay, well, we'll plan that.
If I'm lucky enough to be invited back, then we've got more to talk about, haven't we? So, but thank you so much. I have loved chatting to you, and I'm sure everyone's loved hearing about your books as well. So thank you.
Nadine, we're gonna do another show on my meditations book.
That would be wonderful.
We're going to do a show on my meditations book. And
That'd be a good
thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's fun. All right,
Look
friend. Well, we did it.
Thank you so much. I've loved it. Thank you.
All right. See you soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.